Hello, hello, hello. Rashard Tortorella with the Patriot Sentinel. Welcome, everybody. I got my best friend Cam. Cam, can you imagine? This is episode. I'm looking at the notes here. This is like our 40th episode since we started doing the Patriot Sentinel. Can you believe that? What the heck?
Whoa, man. What a privilege.
It is a privilege, man.
That's
I think
awesome.
I think, we're having fun talking about local and national politics, but you know, I never imagined, that we'd be on almost a year now. We started this almost a year ago in July of last year. So in a couple of months, it'll be our 1 year anniversary. And I took a
No.
snapshot. No, I took that snapshot of the page views, and we were 7 million views in 6 months, and it's amazing. It's amazing what we've built. But as we start every show, good evening and welcome to the Patriot Sentinel Podcast. Blah, 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 blah. You know what I need? I just came from a fundraiser, and this is what I need to water my lips. Hang on a second. And I'm glad you are with me tonight. We got a full show. Carrie is on vacation. 3 national stories, the local stories in Oklahoma. On the national side, White House correspondent dinner and what happened this weekend. It's we'll get into that in the podcast, but we'll talk about foreign policy a little bit. A lot of the things going on here in Oklahoma, storms, and the Enid storm, and we're right back into storm season. But I think Cam, we didn't come on last week. We were all on vacation, and we had some viewers email both of us or text us and say, "Hey, where are you guys at?" And I felt really bad that we were on vacation last week, and I'll be on vacation in July again. Nicole and I are going on a cruise on a sailboat for 10 days, almost 2 weeks, in Greece
Well,
and Turkey.
wait, so you were in DC. Tell me, what's the new look? You got glasses. You look at, like, I'm looking at you. I'm like, is this the new version of Rashard? Like, what's going on here? So, like, tell
Well,
me, what how are you doing? What happened last week, this week? Come on. I want to hear an update.
so you know what? I have what's called, Nicole said, you have an astigmatism. And so things, just a slight astigmatism. And so I've got these cool looking glasses. They are designer frames. They're Nike frames, but they look cool on my face, and they match my gray on my beard, and they stand out and they pop out in the background. But yeah, what about you? I mean, um, how's Melinda? And you are expecting, and I don't know if you know the sex of your new baby that's due when. When is he or she due? And it looks like he froze up as we do on
Oh,
remote. Are you back?
yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're frozen. Go back to your. I tell you what. Go back and log off and log back onto your iPad. Let's just do with that.
Okay. All right. We're back, guys.
So you know what? With every remote broadcast, we rely on technology, and Wi-Fi is a very important part of our technology stack. And sometimes it's reliable, and sometimes it's not. But Cam was alluding to this weekend's White House Correspondent Association dinner in D.C., and I had plans and was scheduled to go, but with all things with the family and and life, I just didn't go this time. But I watched it. CNN covered it, and the two anchors, which should have been a hard news story, were actually disgusting. They were joking about the last correspondence dinner with Obama attacking President Trump. All right, Cam, welcome back to the show.
Hey,
Hey,
I
so
am here.
I just went into the discussion about the White House Correspondents Association dinner and how I was planning to be in D.C. Uh, over the weekend, but life just got in the way. But CNN uh, carried the I want to call it the show, the White House, the show, and I don't know if you watched it on CNN, but the two anchors in what should have been a hard news, semi hard news overview and covering the White House Correspondents Association dinner, were laughing and they're just joking. In fact, they brought up the comedian who was the headline of the last Correspondent Association dinner, and and Obama, and how he was making fun of President Trump then at the time, you know, when Obama was still president. And I thought these two were just totally unprofessional. And the analysis, we talked about this before the show, and it's still being discussed. Look at two sides of the White House Correspondents' dinner. One side, the left, they still think it's appropriate to attack the president, call him a Nazi, call his followers Nazis. And what did you think would happen? All right. And there was an interesting, the Federalist had an interesting story about how the left uses media to kind of make it like normal mainstream. Oh, it's okay to talk about the president and maybe his potential death. And so they kind of discuss it in a, like Jimmy Kimmel on his show. They have these conversations and they say they're entertainers and they're comedians, but what they're actually doing is making it mainstream to talk about hurting a segment of the population. Don't forget, half of America. I mean, look, Trump won re-election, okay, with the popular and the electoral vote, but they still will not work with the man. But what I dislike is these so-called, and I called them out, these fake-ass journalists, along with the fake-ass comedians and the fake-ass Democrats, the leadership. I know a lot of Democrats, and they would agree with me. They don't like this kind of rhetoric. But Cam, when is it ever okay? When is it ever going to stop? When they demonize the president almost daily, and then the guy who rushes Secret Service. Did you see the video I posted? The guy just came out of nowhere. It looked like he was a guest in the hotel, and he was armed. He ran, and you can see him run across the video, running past Secret Service, trying to get past the scanners. Okay, and don't forget, the third issue, DHS is going on their 74th day of not being funded. So these Secret Service agents, they're working, and I hope they're getting some money, but the department's not funded. That's the problem. Three issues here. So this is talk about what happened at the dinner. Cam, they are saying, and this is so stupid, that this was a setup, a false flag. Why would somebody as smart as the assailant, and let's just say he's intelligent, he drank the Kool-Aid, no King supporter, would want to go and kill the president of the United States and attack his staff? I mean, what sane person would do that? Or has he drunk the Kool-Aid and he's going after Hitler?
Yeah. Hey, man, I'll be honest with you on this one. It is, I do not understand when we have a president that has had multiple assassination attempts and yet people think it's funny. You know, it's gross because we shouldn't be celebrating a someone who could potentially die. You know, if you wouldn't want that for your mom, your dad, your sister, your husband, your wife, why are you going to celebrate that to somebody? You know, again, it's one of those things that when you look at society, is society getting worse as we progress? Or is society getting bolder and really saying what's going on? Or is it just mental health? And to me, when I see, for example, like the guy who ran across and all that, he has all these achievements, but he's still trying to do an attempt at the president. Like the ICE protesters, same thing. Everybody's saying all their victims, but when you see their history and what they've done, and if you would have done it, if you put that person somewhere else, they would have been treated with justice. So I don't understand this rhetoric. I don't understand this thought process. And it shouldn't be a Republican or a Democrat or independent problem. It should be a patriot problem. If your president is being attacked, then you should be, as a U.S. citizen, be angry because that shouldn't happen in the greatest country of this world. And in
I agree.
history, like when people say like, oh, well, no kings, rallies that they're having and all that. Nobody talks about when Obama pulled the Obamacare executive order that everybody's gonna go, either they're gonna get fined or go to jail because you are required to buy health care. I didn't hear anybody protest about that. When King
No,
Charles came in and he was here, what, this week? Where's the King protest of that? Come on, like it's
you
silly,
you see the
man. It's
you see the
sad.
difference in the Democrats. So they stand and applause. Okay, these okay. We all say the rank and file do not represent the leadership, and we can say that most Democrats that we know in our circle aren't as crazy as the Democrat Party leadership as a whole, right? So they have these no king protests around the nation. And when King Charles addressed Congress yesterday, they stood to applauded for a king. And the messaging is so, I'm going to say it's such a bold ass retarded reaction when they stand and applaud an actual king, but they won't stand and applause the president of the United States, and they call him a dictator. And they protest. No King's protest is about a duly elected president, President Trump, and these morons, let's call them this, they're a bunch of morons, do not stand for him. And that's the problem with politics today. And I'm going to say it goes back to 2008 when Obama was elected. And a lot of us was skeptical about this guy that we had known nothing about, that, had a
Yeah.
fake birth certificate. That was actually not a Trump thing. Hillary Clinton started that rumor. And I still don't believe he's an American citizen, but we are way past that. The fallout from the Obama years in the two terms is what has done this country wrong. All right. And so, you know,
Well, and Rashard,
we
and if you take me back when I was in high school, and someone would say, "Hey, man, there's this guy named Barack Hussein Obama is going to be your next president," I would go, "Hussein? Like the
crazy.
dictator? We just, oh man, like, come on."
Only in America can a guy who has a fake birth certificate, not an American citizen. All right, you have to be born. Look, the rules are the rules, and I say that could I ever run for president? I just don't qualify because I'm not natural born, and the Constitution and what Trump is trying to say about birthright citizenship is that both your parents have to be American citizens for you to have American citizen.
Mhm.
Okay. Rubio, I like the guy. He's one of the greatest Secretary of States that we've had in a long time.
Mm.
He's not natural born. And so, I'm pretty sure that if you use the standard, he shouldn't run for president. But until the Supreme Court rules, I don't think they have yet. Have they, Mrs.
Mm-mm.
Producer? Okay, they're still waiting for that decision. It's going to affect who runs for president. But do we go back and nullify Barack Dumbo Hussein, whatever? I don't think so. But the point is, I think the left has gone off their rockers, and the words do have meanings. And anytime, and it's not free speech. Jimmy Kimmel, I hope they fire his ass because it is not free speech. James Comey, I hope that they lock his ass up. And here's, going back, is that why didn't they raid his house at 6 o'clock in the
Mhm.
morning with Fox News and Real America Voice? and all these conservative stations stationed outside his front door and have him perp walked into a vehicle. All right. They didn't think about this when they did it to Trump, Rudy, Roger Stone, anybody who was associated with them. They perp walked them at 6 o'clock in the morning in their shorts with the far left media in attendance recording the entire thing. And that's the
Hey,
problem today.
and how many apologies have you heard from all those news medias? You know, when they ask for their marketing team to, you know, get money, to get paid and all this, you don't see the stakeholders dwindling. So I'm going like, hang on, what's the message here? You know, what are we doing here? When was the last time we had a president that they raided their home
Hey,
and
Melania's
they
underwear. They went through the first lady's underwear drawer.
Mhm. It's gross, man. I'll be honest with you.
So the White House, what happened over the weekend is on the Dems. It's on Timu Obama, whatever, Haki Jeffries, whatever his name is. He's a moron. It's on him. It's on every Democrat leader. All right. It's on the fake ass journalists. It's on the comedians. You know, they should, you know, I'm not about cancel culture. I don't believe that we should boycott businesses because of their stance, but this is not a First Amendment right issue. This is, you cannot call for harm and call and be protected and think you'll be protected under the First Amendment. It's not going to happen, you know? And so,
Mhm.
you know, the Secret Service guy that was shot, they're still determining whether or not the shooter got a shot off or was it, you know, crossfire. And things happen so quickly. And don't forget, you know, CNN reported the shooter dead. And so we had to report the shooter dead, you know, and you know, until things in Secret Service control the scene. And I want to say when Fox News finally broke in to cover this, then we realized that the shooter was captured and was not killed. All right. And Secret Service was on their 71st day of not being paid.
Mhm.
I mean, so, you know, and the Democrats saying it's staged. I've had some Republican friends tell me that this was a false flag. I said, you're absolutely nuts, and you're wrong about this. And so everything that's happened is like, you know, this is not what America's about. You know, he was a duly elected president. Stop calling him Nazi and Hitler, because you do have these deranged mental freaks who in their mind will think, hey, I'm going to get rid of the world. I'm going to rid the world of Hitler. And again, what did they expect would happen? And so I hope
Yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel is off the air. I hope James Comey is found guilty and serves jail time. I mean, when is
Yeah.
enough? It's going to be enough. And he's FBI, dude. And you think
Yeah.
anyone, and he's an attorney too. He's also an attorney that would know the law, would realize that what he did was wrong, anyways. I mean, we all know what 86 means, and you put that together with 47. Come on. You, Mr. Comey, are a fucking retard. If you think we're stupid enough to believe your assertion that, hey, I didn't know what this meant. I just saw these shells put together. Come on, man. Get your head out of your ass. Maybe, just maybe, you would serve some prison time and some dude named Tyrone is sticking something up your ass, you know, because you stuck it up the ass of the taxpayers and Trump for all these years. I think that you should go to prison, and I would pay to have a train on your ass every day that you are serving time. I think that's the right punishment. I think we give you a week of getting ass fucked by every pedophile, rapist, murderer in prison, and you serve 1 week, and that is your punishment. I mean, is that wrong? Am I wrong for saying that?
No, but
But
I
we
was gonna
say
say, well, I'm not gonna stop you.
hey, we say prison time. He's only there for a week.
Hey, some
We call
prison
it
yoga might be good for him.
We say it's the prison treatment. Okay, it's like, okay, you're sentenced, you're found guilty. We'll serve you 7 days. He's like, oh yeah, good. I got out of this one here. I'll be on the Club Fed. No, I want you fucking raped every day by Tyrone, Jaquil, whatever, whoever there. I mean, I want you abused, all the holes abused for 1 week. I think that will deter anybody else. And that motherfucker, Jimmy Kimmel, too, I think he should be next to as well. All right. Saying that the first lady, I don't know what exactly he said, but basically he said, you have that glowing effect of a widower, and I mean, again, what else do you think would happen? Hey, we're adults here. We can say.
Let's get this correct. Let's do this the right way and be one and one instead of CNN. The guy who tried to do the assassination attempt, alive. Look, bro, we're 1 for 1 compared to CNN. So, Patriot Sentinel, here we are. We are live talking about accurate news instead of CNN just messing it up.
Look, they did come on and say he was dead, but we corrected. I corrected the reporting. But the point
There you
is,
go.
look, this is not satire. This is not comedy here. This is, I threw the F bomb a couple times here, and the rape train on Comey. But I think most Americans would agree that let's save prison space, save the paperwork, sentence you to 7 days in prison, and your ass is raped every damn day, every minute. You are just abused, and that's a deterrent. I want that motherfucker to come out of prison, a homo.
Jesus. Bro, your sense of justice is scary. I'm gonna put it that way. Oh, you ready for
Hey,
the Iran and U.S. policy?
I don't know. It's just I think the national politics is enough for one day. We got 9-10 minutes left in this segment here. We can talk about local. You did send me a story today about the tornado that happened in Enid. So tell the
Man, that was
viewers about
crazy.
that.
Yeah, no, in Enid, Oklahoma, huge tornado. It was literally, again, to the family and victims, prayers to you guys. Our thoughts are with you. But when we were seeing this live and seeing how the tornadoes were being made, from the sky to the ground, and then little cyclones are around, and man, Mother Nature's scary. That was scary. And one of the things that my wife and I have talked about is that yellow haze. That is so scary. When you start seeing that yellow glow, man, that's bad news. And then the whole entire time I was talking to my wife, I'm like, I hope those people are gonna be okay. So yeah,
Mm.
man, that was scary. Scary. I don't know how you saw it on your side.
No, we got the weather forecast and the news broke in, and I can just say thank God that no one lost their lives. But we are entering tornado season, and in fact, anyone who's lived in Oklahoma for like 2-3 years will tell you that it's tornado season all year long. All right, so it doesn't have to happen in the spring. It happened in the fall, late summer, and sometimes we had one in the wintertime. It happens all the time here, and I think that most Oklahomans are prepared. You know, they're gonna freak out like somebody from the East Coast. I can imagine some California transplant thinking
Bro,
that Oklahoma is a place to be, and they see a tornado and they just lose their shit, right? I remember, gosh, it was back in 23 when we had that major tornado come through Cleveland County, Norman, and Moore. And I remember there's all this, I came home and we didn't have the shelter at the time, but we got one right afterwards. And, the people um, I want to blame the people who are from California that caused this rush of people leaving the neighborhood. And I go, where are you going? They go, oh, tornado's coming. And, and you get sucked into, well, this is a big one coming down. It's shifted up north out of El Reno. And usually you watch it and they go in this pattern that takes them, kind of, north northeast.
hmm
The tornado goes this
Or
way,
stinker. Hmm
right?
Oh,
and when it went this way here, it broke off, and one went south down like 35, and that was the first time it had come through more in Norman, and people were leaving their homes driving south. Crazy time, 60th Avenue in East Norman on Highway 9. It was like people just driving to get away. And I can imagine people like they were sitting and they were stuck in traffic because you had nowhere to go. Everyone was
mm,
going east and west on Highway 9 and running across Highway 9 from 60th and 72nd Street to get out of the way and go south. And, when the winds come and the trees start shaking and then you're like, oh shit, I should have stayed home. And it's exactly where you should have stayed. You're safer at home than you are on the streets. And, but
mhm,
now, with FEMA grants and new home construction, everybody has a shelter. And just stay and put your ass in a shelter or find the middle of your house. We all know this. It is tornado season here, and you're safer at home than you are out on the streets. So it's just common sense. And since we are in the season, it's going to happen. And be weather aware and be weather prepared. And for God's sakes, do not leave the house. Do not take your family out thinking you can outrun a tornado, because these things have a mind of their own, and it may go one path and you're going the opposite direction, but it can
mhm.
change in a moment and chase you. So you're not getting paid. You're not a storm chaser. Best thing is to stay at home.
Yeah, and whenever you start going into panic mode, you start making those decisions that may be finicky, and you start getting too close to another car, and then another car slamming, and then you're stuck between cars. Tornado comes over, and then you don't have food, you don't have water. If your family is stuck in your car, like in your car, like say nothing happens to you. How long is it going to take somebody to come in and knock on your window and say, "Hey, man, are you okay?" So yeah, you're right, man. It's, always have a plan, have food, have water. If you have questions, reach out to your your local city officials and have a conversation, see what you could do. Because I'll be honest with you, tornadoes are scary. And the best thing for you is to be caught with your pants down trying to run away from a tornado.
That's the
Yeah.
best thing. Did you just say the best thing is to be caught with your pants down?
No, no, the worst, the worst thing.
Oh, okay. Maybe I heard it wrong. Maybe I had one too many, but I heard you say, the best thing. Okay. Just thought I'd
Hey,
clarify it.
replay it when look into the replay.
I mean, we can spend the rest of the hour here talking about this, but you sent a story
Mm.
over today. Students will get double the recess time thanks to a newly passed law. So tell me, what the heck is that about? I think kids get too much damn playtime. So now they get
Oh,
more.
come on, Rashard. Look, I was gonna say, look, and this is where I'm gonna come in as a parent, and I'm not saying that you're a good or bad parent. No, Rashard, this is just me thinking that being a child, you only have a limited amount of time to be a child until you become a grown up. And once you become a grown up, the day you stop being a grown up is the day you die. So like let those kids have that recess. Don't punish those kids. Like you gotta let the kids enjoy life because by the time they turn into, my age, your age, they're bitter and angry because they didn't get to stare at the sun a little bit harder. So, I think we need more recess. I agree with more recess for children.
Well, give them more recess, but give them the paddle too. So these little
Oh
motherfuckers
yes,
sometimes get out of
beat 'em.
hand. Yeah, I think yes, I think the teacher should use a belt or a paddle in the bedroom. I mean, so not look. I think most kids, I watch these movies and trying to depict life back in the '90s and the '80s and kids picking on other kids here. And quite frankly, I never even experienced that. I don't know what school or what city that things would actually happen, that they would draw their experience from and write a story or movie about that happening. It just never happened when I was growing up. I don't know about you, but we just never
Mm-mm.
experienced that kind of behavior. But we did other stupid shit too, So I'm not saying that was perfect, but cutting. I remember the stupid shit you do, and this German chick I had met, and I did skip school to be and spend a day with her, and then I got caught. The principal saw me, and I got caught, and I was suspended for a day or two, and I was trying to explain to my parents, well, she was abused and she had no place to go, and I was doing what I thought was right, and
What a gentleman.
and they go, well, she lives in the same big house that we do. What do you think? You're stupid? We're not dumb. You're going to spend the next 2 days in suspension in your room, cleaning up the backyard. That's what I said. So, you know, had fun in high school, had fun in college, had fun in the military. But I look back. That's the things that we did. We didn't attack the other students. We didn't do any. It was nothing like that. So I don't know, and you were brought up the same way too as well. These idiotic things we say to justify our actions. I've done a lot of stupid things, and my kids, my two daughters, they don't know, and they have not done nearly. The biggest issue, like my youngest daughter, Hunter, um, is nothing. She's actually a good kid. I don't have any. I don't have anything to say bad about her.
Yeah, no, look, my wife and I, so we're school sweethearts. She asked me out. So I really didn't get in trouble because of her. She was the one who kept me in line. The only time we did bad things was when we were at the end of our senior year, and we just kind of looked at each other and said, "Hey, let's go to the beach and skip school like every other day until we're done with high school." That's the worst
Right.
thing we did.
Right.
So, take the bus all the way to the beach, Miami Beach, Florida, just, lay there, even though it's, 70 degrees and the water's freezing. You're like, oh, this is great. Now that I'm this age, I'm like, that was so dumb. That wasn't even the summer. The water was so cold. But yeah, no, again, going back to the article, I think I think we should have teachers give the kids paddles, because if the kid is not being disrespectful, I think with consent from the parent, they should get paddled. But let kids be kids. I just really think that they only have a limited of time to enjoy being kids.
No, that I would agree. But you know what? I think kids today are pretty good. I mean, so I don't
Hmm.
know anybody who has kids that are just wildly wild, out of control. I mean, so that's just stuff that Hollywood makes up for good theater, man.
Unless
So I think,
unless they go on protest because the teachers released them. But that's
and
not the
we.
children.
All right, we are at the 30-minute mark, and I'm going to call it tonight. Carrie Rails is on vacation. We were on vacation last week, and we look forward to seeing everybody next week. Um, Cam, I want to thank you for being here, and as we get into July and the 250th anniversary of America, we have a lot to talk about. I would like to change and shift focus of the podcast and talk about the good that America is, the dream
Mhm.
for everybody that we share equally, and I think we should shift the podcast to talk about the good things that America has done. 250 years, we come a long ways, baby. I think we're
Yeah,
a
no King's
nation that was
protest to
ordained
this
by
day.
God.
The British coming this way. Stop it. Target practice. White X's. Let's go.
Well, that's it for tonight's Patriot Sentinel Podcast. Thanks for being here and spending part of your evening with us. We'll keep watching the national picture and the situation here in Oklahoma because both matter. Like I said, I think we're going to shift the discussion and talk about the good things, business, entertainment, sports. People get their news and politics. I think they're just burnt out about a lot of things here. We'll have newly elected Ward 5 City Councilman Trey Kirby on next Wednesday, and look forward to hearing his first month in office and what he's doing to represent Ward 5, my old district, in the city of Norman. Cam, I want to thank you. Carrie, enjoy your vacation. And thank you and have a good night, guys.
Take care, bro.